I'm Rachel, an author, an artist, and screenwriter for animation. Welcome to the Storyteller Treehouse. Today I'm going to share a little bit about my experiences at Realm Makers 2025, the Writers' Conference and Expo. Over the years, I've been to several writers' conferences, artist conventions, and animation expos. The one event that I keep coming back to again and again because it is my favorite has to be the Realm Makers Conference. It feels like home to me. A lot of times writers, especially writers of speculative fiction like fantasy and science fiction and all of those weird genres, a lot of times the Christian world kind of keeps us at arm's length. I think because, they're a little intimidated by some of that weird stuff. Realm Makers is just so refreshing and so unique to be able to go to this conference where we're all a little weird, we're all a little bit nerdy, and we're all Christians at the same time. So I think there's that draw there for writers of faith who want to explore the boundaries of what fiction can do. And I love that. I love that Realm Makers is a space for that. A couple years ago, I believe I did a video about my previous experiences at Realm Makers, and I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check that out. But this time I want to showcase some of the new stuff that they've incorporated into the Realm Makers experience. So this year we were at a new location and it was a lot bigger than it has been in the past. They've also expanded their vendor hall to include a wider variety of creatives. So it was really inspiring to see, artists and writers and game developers and all of this stuff, graphic novelists, all of these people under one roof being able to kind of cross-pollinate and explore each other's worlds in new ways. So let's talk more about what the expo was about and what the writers' conference was like and my experiences and overall impressions of this kind of new foray into a wider world. So first of all, for those of you who may have not seen my previous video, what is Realm Makers? It's all about writing speculative fiction. So fantasy, science fiction, horror, steampunk, superheroes, all of that fun, nerdy stuff. All the stuff that I love. I was one of those kids who grew up very uninterested in most of the realistic fiction or historical fiction even. I was drawn to anything that had another world. So when I discovered Realm Makers, I was like, I have found my people. This is where I'm meant to be. So this year, Realm Makers was at a new location. So most of the years I've attended, it's been in St. Louis, which is a kind of a great central location for people to come from all over the United States and beyond. But they've kind of grown in recent years. And by kind of, I mean a lot. That's exciting. It's really cool to see the community growing and thriving. But it also means that a lot of changes have had to be made, and some of them are a little painful for those of us who've been there several years in the past. I'll get into some of the pros and cons for the new location that they had this year in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'd never been to Grand Rapids before, so that was kind of fun to see a new city. We stayed at the hotel that was right next to the convention center, really like a 12-minute walk, so it wasn't super close, but we made it work. And also the dates were a little different because usually they have had it 2 or 3 days leading up to Saturday, and then Sunday would be like their post-conference special thing that you can add on. This year they shifted all of the days. It was Friday through Sunday basically. So that allowed them to do some different things, and they actually had like a little worship service on Sunday morning, which was really cool to hear all of those realmies, as we call ourselves, singing together, and that was awesome. So the expo was a totally new thing. It was kind of an expansion or a logical progression based on the vendor hall that they've done in the past and the book festival that they would do on Saturday night before. Now, like the whole time was also a public expo that was, alongside the writers' conference portion of the event. So it was really basically 2 events in a trench coat, and I think there were some things about it that worked and some things that maybe didn't, but overall it was really cool to see that kind of coming together of creatives of all types. And that's one of the things that really shined about the expo, was being able to see people from different spheres in entertainment. So we had animation and video games, graphic novels, novelists, voice actors, all of these people coming together saying, yes, we love storytelling. We love creating something beyond the normal. And that's something that is encouraged by this community. So I think that was cool. It was really neat to see people that I've met in other spheres in animation when I worked in animation and things like that, kind of coming together from different areas into one building. And that was neat. I loved that. That said, some of the downsides of this was that it was very difficult to juggle the different events that were happening simultaneously. So there were panels for the expo happening, there were workshops, and of course there was all of the vendors in the expo hall. And a lot of the panels were also in the vendor hall, so it was a little difficult in terms of noise and activity, kind of overwhelming for an introvert, honestly. And as for someone who can only stand that for 15 minutes at a time, and then I have to retreat and go and find a quiet corner somewhere, it was a little overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. It was exciting, obviously, but there was that aspect from an attendee who has very small social battery. It was difficult for me to navigate. The challenge for me as also attending the writers conference was that this was all happening at the exact same time as all of the workshops and classes that I wanted to take for the writers conference. So I had to really be choosy about where I'm going to spend my time, and a lot of times I kind of was overwhelmed and didn't end up going to either. And so I feel like I missed more this year than I normally would have, even as an introvert. I wish they had kind of had more streamlined workshops and expo and writers conference stuff staggered or alternating so that we could do both. But I understand why they did it that way. So take that with a grain of salt, because as I said, I'm extremely introverted. So, maybe it's a me problem. One other thing is I was helping a couple of different friends who were vendors in the expo, and several people that I talked to kind of had the same experience, where it felt like that first day or two of the conference that the vendor hall was not as well trafficked as we were hoping. There weren't just natural walkways. People weren't just passing through on their way from one thing to another. They had to kind of go out of their way to go to the expo hall. In the end, I think it was profitable for a lot of people, but it was slower than I think people were hoping. And it was cool to see people from the outside coming in. And there were some people that came that weren't writers, that were just there for the expo. And that was neat. That was cool to see people in line for book signings and going to panels and coming and exploring and finding new authors and artists to put on their bookshelves. Now, talking about the writers conference. So in the past, it has felt a lot, like I said, it was at a smaller venue, and so they've had, more of a tight-knit family type of community. And there were game nights, kind of impromptu things that would just happen as people were walking to and from classes. They kind of went through all the same common area, and there was a lot more natural to just run into people and say hi, introduce yourself and play a game together, or talk about your writing, that sort of thing. This year it felt a lot more segmented. The venue and hotel and conference areas were all so spread out that there weren't those common pass-through areas that I was used to at previous conferences. And it felt like it was harder to find those little groups that I was remembering. Again, as an introvert, that might be a me problem. I just wasn't looking hard enough. But it is true that having that flow, that walk through common areas, it does help foster that sort of natural, kind of organic connection that I was lacking this year, honestly. So that was another kind of more of a con for me. But the pro would be that it was bigger. They had a lot more space, and so they could have more people, they could have more vendors. That was really cool to see. This year I also did the pre-conference workshop at Realm Makers for the Writers Conference. And that was honestly probably my biggest highlight for the entire weekend. This workshop was called the Career Accelerator, and it was taught by Seth Ring and Aaron Winters, two highly successful authors in different spheres, and they were fantastic. It was really good to hear from them and kind of look at writing as a career, not just as, I want to write a book someday. Like, I've already written books. I've written lots of books. I'm ready to start that career stage. For me, that was really invaluable. And of course, the costume contest was fun. I'm always excited to participate in that. This year I was Emily from Stardew Valley, and that was really fun. And even though, like I mentioned, that I missed a lot of the workshops that I was really interested in and panels and things like that, one of the things I love about Realm Makers in particular is that we get access to all of the videos and recordings of all the classes after the fact, so I can watch all the things that I missed out on. I feel grateful that I'm able to go back and watch the sessions kind of in the quiet of my own home where I'm not overwhelmed by all of the social stimulation and all of that. So I'm thankful for Realm Makers that they have that opportunity, that I'm able to go back and catch those recaps. I'm certain that the conference organizers have been taking all kinds of notes, and they did a great job following up for feedback with attendees afterwards, so I'm sure they're going to have great improvements for the next year. Speaking of next year, they're going to be back in St. Louis this next year. They're not going to be at the same conference center that they had been in the past because, like I said, they kind of outgrew that space. But they have announced the dates and the location at Union Station in St. Louis, and I think it's going to be wonderful. As you can see, the venue looks like a Hogwarts castle, so I'm excited to go experience Realm Makers at this new place, and I'm hopeful that they'll have taken the lessons they've learned from this year and just gone to improve it even more. So that's a little bit about my experience at Realm Makers this year. That's all I've got for you today, but I hope to see you next time back in the Storyteller Treehouse.